Hey, everyone. It's the Latchkey Friends podcast. So excited to be back with my co-host, Liz. Hi, Liz.
Hello.
And I'm here. We've got a special guest today with us, Darin D. Money Gibson. Darin, how you doing?
Doing well. It's good to see both of you. I'm happy to talk about really bad decisions I've made about tattoos and awkward fart encounters. I think that's what we're going to talk about, right?
Oh, sorry, Darin. We've already done those episodes. And that reminds us, if you haven't checked out episodes 1 or 2, we've got some fart stories and we've got some tales of prison tattoos. But today it's a different kind of story. Now, Liz, the other day you asked me to describe Darin.
Yeah, one word to describe Darin.
Okay, and we both came up with the same word at the same time.
No, I don't think don't drag me into this. No. You said grumpy.
I
would say lovely. That's
Lovely,
what
yes.
I would say.
My number 2 choice was lovely, but my number 1 choice was grumpy. Darin, has anyone ever told you that you're grumpy?
Maybe once or twice in my life. I mean, you would think it was more.
In your entire life,
maybe just once or twice this week. Okay, maybe just once or twice this week.
Okay.
Or maybe just once or twice today. So
okay,
yes, that is a common description of my shining, happy personality.
Okay, now I'm going to turn this back over to Liz. Liz, if you were to say there's one action that makes Darin most grumpy, what would you say it would be?
Hugs from coworkers and strangers.
Hugs from
anyone outside of his family.
Okay. Darin, do you accept hugs from people inside of your family?
Not everybody, no. There are even rules inside of my own family. I like to live by a set of rules that govern the physical contact between me and others. And those generally start with significant life events or birthdays.
Okay.
So
That's the only time you hug.
If there's neither one of those things, don't try to hug me.
Is that even with your siblings and your parents?
I couldn't tell you the last time I hugged my parents.
Good.
Couldn't tell you the last time I saw my parents, which could be maybe the reason why I haven't hugged them.
Another story.
I don't think I've actually ever hugged my siblings.
Ever in your life?
I don't recall. Might be memory suppression at its finest. My brothers, I don't know if my brothers like me. That could be part of it. They might also think that I'm grumpy. My sister is a lot like me, so we just have a common mutual understanding that we don't need to hug to appreciate each other.
Personal space boundaries.
Yeah.
Are the other Gibsons? Do the other Gibsons hug, or is it just you and your sister that are non-huggers?
I believe that my siblings and my parents have a special relationship that involves hugging, where my relationship with my parents does not involve hugging.
Okay, so it's not entirely genetic.
I don't think so. My dad is quite a friendly gentleman, within reason.
Not too friendly. Let's not get crazy.
Yeah, not too friendly. Let's not paint a picture that doesn't exist. I don't think that people would call my father grumpy, but I do believe that my father would call me grumpy. Just a weird dynamic there. So I'm not exactly sure where in my genetic code this predisposition to avoiding hugs comes from. I really don't understand where it comes from.
You think there was a trauma in your childhood? Were you smothered with hugs and it went horribly wrong?
I was the trauma in my childhood. I think I am the trauma in a lot of people's world. I might be a trauma in my mom's world because I was, in fact, about a 12-pound baby. So there could be part of the reason my mom doesn't like me a whole lot. My little brother was bigger than I was.
You were 12 pounds?
I don't know, something like that. It was enormous.
I hope every year for Mother's Day you get her the nicest gift.
But can you understand maybe why she doesn't appreciate who I am is for all of the stress that I put on.
I can see why maybe she doesn't like you.
Yeah, and maybe that is part of the trauma, that maybe there wasn't enough affection from the motherly side of the equation because I was such a large child.
Always the mother.
So I don't know that mine stems from having a trauma, but I think I am the trauma.
Well, so Liz Liz and I, we've known Darin for 7 years, give or take. Liz has known Darin even further back into the history of time. So it seems like Liz should have a good handle on Darin and his boundaries. But Liz, if you could walk us through a decision that you made that maybe didn't go like you had planned.
That altered the course of history forever, maybe?
Yeah, it's something I regret. If I could say top 5 regrets in my life, this would be one of them.
In your life?
In my
top
life,
5.
yeah. It was pretty traumatic for me too. I felt horrible.
Okay.
Something to know about me, I am a button pusher a little bit, just a little bit, you know.
Get out of town.
Right?
Get out of
Darin
town.
had no idea. I like to just see how far I can push people to the edge just before they like lose it. I happened to push Darin over the edge, which was not my intention, but it just sort of happened. So I don't even remember how it started. Do you remember how it started? I just remember we were like, hey, you know what would be funny? Me and Rob Hoffman were like, yeah, it would be funny if like we hugged Darin. Oh, I remember what happened. Spencer, it started with you. And he never admits this. Here's where the secret is gonna happen. This is everything's coming out.
I don't
Darin,
like this anymore.
Or Suzanne, cute little Suzanne St. Pierre hugged Darin, which is fine. And then Spencer ran up behind Darin and gave him a hug. I don't think Darin knew that was Spencer. I did
not, as a matter of fact. I felt this warm body accosting me from behind, but I was in a meeting so focused that I did not have time to turn around and figure out who the creature was that had attached itself.
And it was Spencer, because Spencer loves hugs. And I was like, maybe a little hurt, like, oh, Darin never gives me a hug. Why does Spencer get to back hug Darin? I feel like that's an intimate hug. And so then I went and gave you a hug, a really long side awkward hug. And then Rob Hoffman and I are like, you know, it'd be really funny if this was International Hug Darin Day. And so we sent an email out to the department saying, you need to hug Darin today. And so the hugging started. And how did you feel about that, Darin?
I recall most of these details. I think where I went over the edge was not the hug from Spencer. I appreciate how gentle he was and how he always is in his physical affection with others. It wasn't the hug from Liz, I don't believe, because Liz and I have a connection through a mutual friend who happens to be her husband.
Yes.
So it felt like an extension of a high school friend giving me a hug.
Yeah.
It was back in the day when maybe Rob Hoffman and I were not as close. And Rob is a big man. And I, at the time, was not, I was trying to be a little more diminutive. I was in the process of losing weight. So I felt very delicate and very small. And when I felt the earthquake running my way of hairy Rob Hoffman trying to give me a hug, it was a little much for my personality at that time. A little much.
Yeah.
Much.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think it was the Rob trigger that threw me over the edge. The email clearly didn't help because, God rest her soul, although I don't think she's dead, Jill Brown also decided to come give me an awkward side hug. There may have been others who tried to attempt the hug, from which I ran quickly, expeditiously to a meeting where Spencer happened to be with Michael Waterman, who had not yet tried to hug me, but I believe he was ready to embrace.
Yeah.
And boy, did I let him have it. Spencer, do you recall my attitude? Maybe that's why I'm grumpy. Maybe this is the source of all of my grump.
This did it.
Is this singular event in my life where I was physically assaulted at work by coworkers who otherwise I believe to be my friends and be respectful of my personal space.
Yeah.
So I let Waterman have it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember Spencer DMing me saying, Darin is so mad. He is so mad. And then he's like, don't tell him I was the one that gave him the back hug. And so then we had to tell everybody, please stop hugging Darin. He doesn't like it.
Please just stop.
So
Please,
Stop hugging Darin before he silent whistles me. Thank you.
love that all that is holy. Please do not hug Darin.
So within mere hours, maybe even less than an hour, the celebration that was International Hug Darin Day became an international ban on hugging Darin Day.
Yeah. It did.
Yeah.
It goes from celebration to ban within the space of a couple of hours.
Okay, so
And it made me feel better that there was an understanding.
Yeah.
I was appreciative that people did not continue to push the button.
Yeah, I quickly released that button. I was like, oh man, that was too far.
And it was very smart to release the button.
Yeah.
I have since softened my stance
Yeah.
on physical affection with coworkers.
Yeah, now we get
I
hugs on
don't-
birthdays.
Hugs on birthdays,
Uh-huh.
significant life events,
Yeah.
and if I'm feeling extra lovey that day.
How
And you
often
happen to
do you say you feel extra lovey?
at work,
Yeah.
probably pretty rare.
Yeah.
Not that I don't. There are times
No.
where I feel just great and filled with energy as I walk down the hallway back in the time before social and physical distancing, where catching the eye of a unsuspecting friend or coworker
Yeah.
elicited this feeling of wanting to give them a hug and embrace.
Karen, that
I
warms
do that
my
with
heart.
Eli quite a bit, actually.
Well,
which is
Eli's
strange.
he's so cuddly. How could you not hug Eli even on a bad day?
He is my kryptonite. Eli
Yeah.
Barrett is my kryptonite.
He's your hug
Wow.
kryptonite. I get it. That makes sense. Eli is just lovely.
In fact, Eli was the last coworker that I hugged before the pandemic broke out. But I believe that both of us are fine.
You guys are both fine, yeah.
I believe
So this
so.
whole 6 feet social distancing is probably like your Super Bowl then.
World Cup, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I knew better. I knew
This-
better.
This is on a
totally
much
knew
larger
better.
scale than the silly old Super Bowl. This is
Yeah.
this brings in Lithuania and Transylvania and
Yeah.
Liechtenstein.
Yeah,
I
all
mean,
the-
everybody. I mean,
Uh-huh.
this is everybody in the world enjoying this hiatus.
Yeah.
I do want to say, I believe that if people had adopted proper principles and techniques around physical affection, the pandemic may not have broken out.
You could
I
have
could
saved
have been
us, Darren.
responsible for saving the entire world.
You could have saved the entire world.
If
The
we just would have
entire
listened to Darin, if we would have listened to Darin, none of this would have
Yeah.
happened.
Who's grumpy now? All
Now,
of us.
Darren, this is both a video and a podcast. So
Yes.
for our video viewers, why don't you go ahead and take off your hat?
I am in fact still bald.
Oh my
Hey,
gosh,
Liz.
it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the two of you.
If we get our
Who's
faces
who?
really close, Spencer,
Really
you can't
close.
tell.
Oh yeah.
Who's who?
I'm lost. Only the images on the screen with our names tell me which is which.
And Liz, for our audio listeners, how would you describe this moment?
Just surreal, I guess.
A whole lot of
Like
bald.
seeing double. I don't know if there's something wrong with my screen.
Yeah.
Two handsome gentlemen with glasses. That's how I describe it. Two handsome white dudes with glasses. That's all you
Couple of
need to know.
handsome
We
bald
don't need
guys.
to talk about the missing hair. It's fine.
Well, Darin, it seems like you're less grumpy now. However, I feel that there's another story.
Wait.
yet to be-
In general or just today?
Well,
Because I'm
let's
not
start with this.
sure.
In this moment, you seem less grumpy. But it
Well, it's
seems
because
like
I miss my friends, and it's good to see you guys.
Well, it seems like we're not the only ones who've ever teased you at work. I'm wondering if you could dial up a background on your screen here.
Oh, of course. Get ready, world. Here we go.
So,
Through the
Darin
wonder
has a
of
long
technology.
history of being turned. Okay, for our audio listeners, we're seeing a billboard that says "Save your money for a new winter wardrobe," and it's a picture of a pasty white man who's a wee bit pudgy and looks grumpy. Darin, can you tell us more?
So you are correct, Spencer, that I have been the brunt of many jokes in my lifetime and not just my career. In a past life, I worked at a traditional ad agency called Crowell Advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Rest its soul, because it is no longer in business.
Maybe
it could be
because of
because
that
of
billboard.
crap like this that they did in the background. So the creatives at Crowell were an interesting bunch who liked to drink at 10 a.m. and who liked to make fun of me in particular. Mostly because this is how I actually looked to them. Here, I'll bring this up really quick. We'll go back and forth here for a second.
I'm so glad you know technology.
This is Paper Darin. Okay.
Okay, for our audio listeners, it looks kind of like a Minecraft blocky kind of Darin
Correct.
guy.
It's a rectangle box in my image. This is how one of the creatives saw me as a person. This is how most of the creatives saw me in real life, in realsies, that they liked to make fun of how fat I was. And I generally wore the same outfit every day, which is not all that far from.
Sweater. Was it that
yeah,
sweater?
I mean, not that sweater. Actually, I think they burned it. Actually, they had to cut it off me because I couldn't get it off. So they actually had to cut it off me. So they came to me, and this was back during one of the, not this recession that's coming up, awesome, but the previous recession back in 2008, where money was tight for talent.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of telling me that, they had hatched this scheme where they were going to include me on this billboard, come hell or high water. They proposed it to me as, hey, we just need a mock-up, because that's what creative people do, is create mock-ups, right? And me, back in the day, being innocent and generally helpful, wanted to participate and help them accomplish their goals, because it was for a client. It was a mock-up. There was no way I was going to end up on an actual billboard, right? So they took the picture, put me in a mock-up, and lo and behold, I became the talent on this billboard for all of the world to see. Those of you who live in Salt Lake going northbound on I-15 to I-80 heading east, I was on that billboard for an entire season of skiing for the Canyon Ski Resort.
Man, that is a busy spot too.
It's a very busy spot. And so not just people who ski also got to behold all of my goodness, which was 260 at the time, I think it was. Very, very large man.
For sure.
I was a very large man back then. I loved McDonald's, especially breakfast burritos.
Oh,
and when you could have 7 of them at one time, that was even better. I did get paid for it. In hindsight, it probably wasn't enough, because all I could do was buy a couple of sets of blinds for my wife in our house back then. So that would tell you about how much I got paid. But I am gratefully no longer that size and no longer naive to think that creatives have my best interest at heart.
So no more mock-ups for you.
No more mock-ups. I'm not to be included in any creative projects going forward.
So if we can bring it back around here, you had some coworkers who put you on a billboard where your stomach was hanging out, and you had others who wanted to hug you. The hugs don't seem so bad, Darin. Not
anymore, especially when this image became an animated banner on a website as well.
It's an animated banner?
I unfortunately do not have the old animated banner, but if you can imagine, I'm going to give you a little, I would float into the screen like this. And then when I'd stop into the screen, my belly would go. And I believe that banner was on KSL for a time through an ad network. So yeah, this was bad, but then seeing it physically animated on the online web was equally as traumatizing, and I should have demanded more money when I became.
You should have demanded way more money. You did not get paid enough.
It was something. It was something. But yes, there's a clause in my CHG contract where I am not to be included in any email creative, any physical creative, any type of creative done by creatives at CHG.
Good.
Makes sense. That's fair.
People take advantage of my kindness generally. So.
Darin, listen, I know we tease you about being grumpy, but you really are one of the nicest guys. So thank you for coming on this podcast and sharing the story with us.
Did you just expose my secret that deep down I'm actually a nice person? I hope that everyone who consumes this content will believe you, because I am a nice guy deep down.
You really are. You're just kind of grumpy, but really underneath all that grumpiness is just this soft, gooey inside.
Just a soft, gooey.
Who can dance? Oh man, I can't wait till we can do a podcast about Darin's dancing. So many stories.
There are way too many stories, I think. Way too many.
All right, Darin. Well, on behalf of the world, we're sorry we didn't listen to you. We should have stopped hugging, but now we're all here, socially distanced, and we would like to give you a virtual hug.
Thank you. And when this world of lack of distance becomes not a thing, I will look forward to embracing both of you briefly, but still embracing both of you and separately.
Very brief.
All right. Thanks, everybody. At Latchkey Kids on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and SoundCloud. Check it out. Darin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Ciao.
Catch you guys later.